Hi everybody, and welcome to your first online video for English class. Today we're going to take a look at the 5 literary elements, and this will be our first unit that we study together and work on for the first several weeks of school. So today I'm just going to break down each of the literary elements. We're going to talk briefly about what they are, give you a definition and an overview, and then when you come into class tomorrow as a group, we're going to read a piece of text, and I'm going to ask you to be able to identify each one of these elements and tell me how it works within the story or text that we're reading. So that's the goal by the end of this video, is that you will be able to do that. Before I forget, I want to remind you that when you're done watching this video, make sure you use the link that's in the comment section of the video, or it can also be found on my website, the same place you use the link to get here. You want to answer the homework questions so that you get credit for them. They can be done right online and submitted right online, and they need to be submitted to me before the start of class in order to get full credit for doing the homework assignment. So don't forget to do that when you're done. Give me 1 second to get my computer up and running here, and then we will learn about the literary elements. So the literary elements are really just the parts or pieces that make up the literature that we read. I think the next big question that we need to answer, though, is what is literature before we look at its parts and pieces. Literature includes both fiction, which is made up, and nonfiction, which is true. I like to remember that fiction is fake. They both start with F. And there's some examples of the types of literature that we're going to read this year. So the literary elements are found in both fiction and nonfiction. The elements are setting, plot, character, point of view, and theme. And these elements are found in any piece of literature that you read. So it's really just about how the author uses these elements and makes them interact with each other that makes each story unique. And that's what we're going to spend a lot of time studying. The first one is called setting, and it deals with the where and when of the story, or the time and the place. And you want to be as specific as you possibly can with setting. If it gives you a year and a town, that's how specific you need to be. If it gives you a month and a time of day, that's how specific. Plot is really the action or the events of the story. When somebody asks you to tell them what happened in the story, they're actually referring to the plot. And I have this little algebra problem down here in the corner to remind you that plot is really driven by the problem or conflict of the story that drives the plot forward. Next, we have character. The character are the people or other figures, they could be animals or something else, that perform the action of the story. They're the ones involved in the story. And the author uses different ways of describing them to us and getting us to know those characters, which is all part of this element. We have point of view, which deals with the narrator. You want to ask yourself, how is the narrator connected to the story? Is he connected? And how much does he know? So point of view really deals with the perspective of the story, the perspective of the narrator who is telling us that story. That's what you want to think about with point of view. Lastly, we have theme, which is the story's lesson or main message. And these are life lessons. Think big picture things that could be applied to life, like friendship, love, or family. Those would all be examples of great themes within a story. So you want to look for what the author wants you to take away from the story. The big thing with elements of fiction is to think about how the author tells you about each of these elements and how they interact with each other while you read. That knowing what they are is important, but we also need to think about how they work together. So some questions you might want to consider are, how does this time or this place, the setting of the story, contribute to what the story is about? Would it make sense to have the same set of events, the same plot, if we had the story set in a different place? Would different characters interact differently or solve the conflict differently, thus making it a different story? So those are some of the things you want to think about. How much does the narrator know? What's that point of view of the story, and how does that affect the information that I get as a reader? Am I getting good information? Am I getting reliable information about this plot and these characters, or is there some things in there that I may need to second guess? So that's really what we're going to talk about when we talk about the elements of fiction over the next couple of weeks, is analyzing them, breaking them apart, and thinking about how they all interact with each other. Don't forget to answer the homework questions so that you get credit for watching this video, and I will see you in class.